Welcome to your daily dose of hope. I'm Phyllis Nichols, and I'm glad you're here. Today, I want to talk about questions, better questions, because hope can help us ask better questions. Sometimes things that happen in our life or the way that we feel about it for sure, right? The way that we feel really can come from the questions that we ask ourselves. Sometimes the questions sound like, why does this always happen to me? What if everything goes wrong? Why is this difficult? Why can't things be easier? But those questions, while they may be valid for sure, can sometimes just pull us into a feeling of either being fearful or feeling limited, feeling like we don't have a lot of control. We don't have a lot of agency over what's happening in our life. Today, just a few better questions. And I like asking myself some of these. I have to be reminded too, but it's just talking about maybe asking yourself, what's one thing that is going right today? My friend Jonathan always says, what can I learn from this moment? That's a really great question to ask, especially when something unexpected happens, which is part of life. Another great question is, who could help me with this? As someone that sometimes is reluctant to ask for help, I think just thinking about the fact that somebody else might be able to help or contribute or support me in some way is a great shift in attitude. Couple more questions. What could make this more fun? I think that's a great question to ask, and I definitely don't ask that one often enough. And what's possible that I haven't considered yet? Anytime we can give ourselves like a new perspective. And this, I feel like, is related to that question like, what would I tell my best friend who's going through what I'm going through or struggling with what's on my mind today? Often like our advice to others is much more kind and empathetic than what we're saying to ourselves. So remember, good questions open doors and help us see things that are possible. And it helps us create curiosity instead of feeling maybe panicked or feeling like there's nothing that we can do. We'll always be better off if we can see possibility instead of paralysis or feeling stuck. And you don't have to have all the answers today, but asking better questions can definitely change the direction of your thoughts. And sometimes that's what we just need to do. We need to stop that sort of cycle of those thoughts just to kind of give your day a shift. The other day I was trying to think, we've all heard about like these sayings, like what you think about's what you bring about. And, that we all think like 30,000 thoughts a day, and most of them are all the same thing we thought yesterday. And I know much of that is true, and there's a lot of neuroscientists, I guess, who figured these things out. But I started thinking about like, what is something I could think of that's a thought that I have never ever in all my life thought of. And I don't have any good answers because it's weird. Like when you start thinking about things, it's like, well, I've already thought about this. Like the fact that I'm thinking about it now means it's not a new thing. But today is about asking better questions and giving ourselves the chance to maybe look at something with new eyes and with new energy. Give it a shot. This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.